Right. Good morning. Happy Monday. As always, we will do a big picture outlook. We'll go over some top ideas. Again, with summer trading in full effect, the easy money trade definitely has ended in the short term. Again, we had a phenomenal run from March until pretty much the beginning of August. We started to pull back. We should expect to see somewhat of a new flag starting to form here. I would expect something in, we can expect some kind of bull flag to form within this, 460 to 430 range. Maybe go a little bit further. Maybe it holds up a little bit higher, but we should expect some type of consolidation after this major run up that we've had. And we're seeing this, same thing with the Qs. And then we're seeing some of the sectors, kind of losing steam up here, which is kind of adding into why we should expect to see some kind of consolidation or pulling. Industrials, first sector to put in new all-time highs this year. And as we know, the major retests, they often get met or resistance. We've been seeing that for the last 2 weeks now with industrials, pushed a percent higher, but just losing momentum. Seems like it needs to kind of pull back in and set back up for that eventual move back up through these highs into newer highs. So great sign in the long term. In the short term, just have to expect something to pull in, and that's what we've been kind of seeing that across the board. We saw that in tech, very close to retesting its all-time high. Didn't have the power to get there. The same thing, had a very easy money run up, all flows back to highs, and now we're kind of getting that painful, slow pull in. Same thing with consumer discretionaries. Again, they didn't get anywhere close to their all-time high, but they got back to a major, resistance area of a base that had been forming for more than a year. But same thing here. We're just seeing these lower highs. We're just seeing a lot of very clear indication that the market needs to kind of settle out and reset before we see any further, movements higher. The only thing that has been really ripping higher again has been rates. The 10 years has been, breaking out. It seems like the retest of its prior all-time high seems to be in the cards. But energy does seem to be the only sector amongst the major ones that is actually, has been pretty strong. And, it did finally break out of this wedge a few weeks ago. It's been, breaking it higher, did everything you'd expect from a wedge, back tested the area of resistance, turning it to support. And now it's just drifting back, towards this retest of its all-time high. So again, energy looks, great. Probably the sector to kind of keep an eye on in the short term, but we just need to see some consolidation where we don't want to blindly kind of chase that wedge breakout. So again, couple top ideas on my end. We have this MLM through 463 on Friday. It's good action. I see it, it didn't really get up there, kind of, was forming this, much tighter flag from what we saw, a few weeks ago, where, it was a much wider, nearly 20-point range. Now we're, tightening up here where it's just under 10. So good to see that. Shopify still setting up here through this 57.50 area for a little support buyback. We probably need to see a shakeout of this earnings gap low before we see anything through that high. We kind of saw something similar with Etsy. Was keeping an eye on this support buyback, but just got smoked through. Major supports is pretty much a big avoid until it retests the prior 52-week low. But this is, again, it's pretty much off the radar for this support buyback, where Shopify is, still kind of setting up. And then lastly, probably the best chart I can find out there at the moment, this is UNH, nice textbook earnings flag. Been flagging here for a month now. Again, if you remember the earnings parity video, we talked about 4 to 6 weeks for an earnings flag, or we can expect breakout. So we're just getting near that 4-week mark. So this is probably the bigger focus, through this 512, 515 area versus 500. Risking 2 to 3% in this name looks, probably the best chart out there. So we ran through those. Well, the Alp chat, and we'll go over a couple of member ideas. Again, if you guys have anything you guys want to talk about, just mention it in the message here, or unmute yourself. We can go over them as well. Let's see. We'll go over a couple. I'm going to go through all these. See what Alp has been doing. And I think it's just on Abby's radar, nothing really developing yet. The trade will be through that 137 in time. Seems to develop. Let's see. PG. PG through this 58 looks good. Probably needs to consolidate more. And this is the kind of that retest area. Just want to remember, PG is going to be a lower beta name, so don't expect crazy fireworks through that breakout. But if it can kind of pull back in and get that next push up through 158, that looks good. Hasbro, I know we've been watching that for a bit. Just looking at through 67. Right, so definitely see this base area here. It's not really the cleanest area. Can see 67, can see 60, probably 68 is probably the more significant area. So I'd hold off on that until we see that push through 68 and kind of settle out. Let's see Visa. Let's see what Visa's got going on. All right, earnings are out of the way. Nothing really here. I mean, it's kind of just really choppy in here. You got to really, we took that trade a few weeks ago prior to earnings for that kind of pre-earnings run, hopefully to the retest of the 50-week highs. We just didn't really get that. Right now, it's just kind of, chopping around. Really nothing very definitive there. See SLB, we're talking about energy being very strong. They're 60-50. Probably look at SLB 360, but again, right now, as I mentioned before, energy is strong. We don't want to blindly chase it. The real pivot low here in this SLB is gonna be 56. Buying 60, you're gonna be $4. It's a lot for this name, and it's been on quite the run already. So if this can pull in, this seems like with the most energy names, it's going to be kind of support buybacks or waiting for some types of pull-ins versus chasing the breakouts in these names. Because again, you don't want to be buying 60 and pulls into 57 2 days later. Let's see, Monster. It's still, kind of needs to develop more. Again, we were looking at this year's 52 a while back before they split it. Now, again, real pivot low is 55. Trying to buy through 58, just too much risk. It needs to tighten up, and it seems like to be the overall theme here. Let's see, MRO. What's going on with energy name? You're not as extended compared to SLB. Very defined base that's been forming, only pushing through that base, which is definitely a good sign. Earnings, not for quite some time. It's hard to be just buying it today for some follow through, but if it, pre-market's down a little bit, we get a push, a little pull in, maybe a little shake out of 26. This seems like a much better support buyback candidate than SLB. It's not as extended. It does pull in through that 27. Looks like a very good breakout area versus chasing Schlumberger when it's much more extended. Let's see. I'll do one more. Let's see, NE. Right, so this is again, seems like this, through 40 was a spot. This was the real entry. This is a little extended up here. It is all-time highs. So if you wanted, this is kind of like that TDG, kind of that Mickey Mouse flag, had gone on an extreme run, nearly up 100% on the year, maybe 80% of the year. So we knew it was Mickey Mouse flag. We knew that it was very, tight and extended, that you might get some follow through, but we got this earnings, push and kind of, crap the bed. So kind of the same thing here with this NE. It's just gone so much so quickly, in the 30s to 50s, 30 to 40% move. It's hard to expect more continuation after this. If you were to take it, you got to keep this really tight. You're buying it through 53.50, giving it versus 52. can't really give this any room because you know that you're extremely late to the move. So that kind of wraps up my radius is we want to go over. Big focus really though is going to be this UNH, at least for myself, for the weekend. And let's see, MEDP. So MEDP definitely already broke. This was the blue sky breakout here. Sorry, this super tiny arrow. They keep changing all these settings here. This was the start of the blue sky breakout. Now you're just randomly going to be buying the all-time high with no real setup. This was resistance, second attempt, third attempt, fourth, fifth attempt. It starts to go, and then obviously earnings kind of throws it a whack. That's pretty much the hard out for now in this name. But for buying it up here, if this can pull back in and start to consolidate, even through here, you can see this consolidation here, and you have this entry on this day. But here, it's a very strong name. You just need to find the entry for it. So just keep this one on the radar. All right, guys. Again, probably gonna be a slow week in December trading, so don't do anything too crazy. Try to keep things very simple to keep scanning every day, and any top ideas you have, post in the chat. We'll go over them. All right, guys. You guys have a good week.